This is Mr. Nabi for Roger Bacon High School. This lesson on the quadratic formula is for Algebra 2. I'm going to give you the equation for the quadratic formula, give you a handy way of remembering all the parts, and then I want to take a moment to derive the equation for you, show you where it came from, and then also to try an example or two. So first of all, the equation is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Now a catchy way to remember this equation is a negative boy may or may have not gone to a radical party, but because the boy was a square, he got dissed by 4 awesome chicks, and the party was all over by 2 a.m. Maybe that's a helpful way to remember it. Okay, now let's try to derive the equation. You know the basic formula for a quadratic is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And by completing the square, we can actually begin the process of deriving the quadratic equation, the quadratic formula. So the first part of completing the square is to get c on the other side. So we'll do that first. And we want to get the x squared term to have a coefficient of 1. So we will factor out a. We'll take out a factor of a from both terms. Now there is no a in the second term bx, but factoring is a lot like dividing out. So if we divide a out of b, we have b divided by a. To check that, if we distribute a times b over a, you get bx. So we're all set. Now, the quadratic formula, we're on our way. We have to complete the square. So the most important part of completing the square is to take this middle term here. We take half of it, which would be b over 2a, and we square it, which is b squared over 4a squared. Again, half of ba is b over 2a, and if we square the top, we get b squared, and if we square the 2a in the bottom, we get 4a squared. Now I can't just add that to one side, I actually have to add that to both sides. So I have to add a times b squared over 4a squared, which is actually b squared over 4a. Okay. And this is x squared plus b over ax plus b squared over 4a squared. Now, we said we use the quadratic formula to find roots, x-intercepts, zeros. So really I can eliminate the y value here because the y value on the x-intercept is 0. Okay? So what we want to do here is solve for x. Now, we completed the square, so we actually have a perfect square here. And that perfect square is x plus b over 2a. So that's helpful. And I want to get rid of the a, so we'll have c over a plus b squared over 4a squared equals x plus b over 2a quantity squared. Alright. So I want to be able to simplify this a little bit. And in order to do that, I want the left side of the equation to be combined into one fraction. The only way I can do that is if I have a common denominator. My common denominator would be 4a squared, so I'll multiply the top and the bottom by 4a squared. This is actually negative c. So I've got negative 4ac plus b squared all over 4a squared is equal to x plus b over 2a squared. Okay. I'm going to bring this, I'm actually going to bring this up top so we can stay all on one page. Alright, we'll come up here. So let me write it out. I'm going to move things around just a little bit using the commutative property. I'm not going to change the value of this expression, but it is going to be more helpful to have this written as b squared minus 4ac rather than negative 4ac plus b squared. Commutative property, I haven't changed the value, just changed the way it's written. The next part would be taking the square root to get rid of our squared exponent here. If I take the square root of both sides, I have plus or minus, the square root of the top is b squared minus 4ac, all over. Now the square root of the bottom, the square root of 4 is 2, the square root of a squared is a. Alright, so that's that piece. And finally, we want to subtract b over 2a from both sides. So we have negative b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now we're done because we have a common denominator of 2a. That's our denominator. And we can combine the numerators for negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And this was what we said at the beginning is the quadratic formula. So we actually completed the square to derive the quadratic formula. Now let's use this formula for one example. We'll do one example. Y equals, let's say, 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. And we want to find out the x-intercept, so that's what happens when y is 0. Now we could try to factor it. If it factors, it may. If you don't want to factor it, you could do completing the square. That would be a possibility. This is a third possibility, the quadratic formula. So here's our a value, there's our b value, and negative 1 is our c value. So we'll do negative b, which would be the opposite of 2, it's negative 2, plus or minus the square root of b squared is 2 squared, so that's 4, minus 4 times a was 3, and c is negative 1, all over 2 times a, which is 3. Now we can simplify. Negative 2 plus or minus the square root. Now the inside we have 4 minus 4 times 3 times negative 1. Negative 4 times negative 1, that's positive 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 and 12 is 16, all over 6. So this is actually pretty helpful because we do know the square root of 16 is 4. So we've got x is equal to, if we have negative 2 plus 4, that's 2 over 6. Or we have negative 2 minus 4, that's negative 6 over 6, which is negative 1. So this graph of 3x squared plus 2x minus 1 is going to apparently cross the x-axis at about 1/3 and negative 1. And there's the quadratic formula put to work. So I'd like you to try some of the problems that are posted on the board at the end of section 4.6, and check your book as a reference and a guide, and use the quadratic formula.